The storm wasn't just around her. It was inside her. Elena's breath came in ragged gasps as she stumbled through the dense forest, her bare feet slipping on wet leaves and jagged roots that tore at her skin. The rain fell in sheets, cold and merciless, each drop like a needle against her already burning flesh. Thunder rolled overhead, shaking the earth beneath her, or maybe that was just the tremor in her bones. The power she couldn't control, couldn't contain, threatening to rip her apart from the inside out. She pressed her palm against the rough bark of an ancient oak, trying to steady herself, but her hand glowed with that cursed silver light. The mark on her wrist pulsed like a second heartbeat, brighter with every terrified breath she took. She stared at it through the darkness, through the rain blurring her vision, and felt the familiar wave of shame crash over her. Freak. Abomination. Cursed. The words her pack had thrown at her still echoed in her mind, sharper than any claw, deeper than any wound. Behind her, the howls grew closer. Not the morning kind. Not the calling you home kind. These were the howls of hunters who'd already decided she was prey. Elena forced herself to move, her legs shaking, her lungs screaming. She didn't know where she was running to. Only what she was running from. Her own people. The wolves who should have protected her had turned on her the moment her power manifested, the moment that silver flame burst from her hands and revealed what she really was. A mistake. A danger. Something that shouldn't exist. The forest around her seemed to close in, branches reaching like skeletal fingers, fog rolling through the trees like the breath of something ancient and watchful. She could feel eyes on her. Not just the pack behind her, but something else. Something that had been watching her long before tonight. Her daughter's face flashed in her mind, those wide, innocent eyes, that gap-toothed smile. The way she looked up at Elena this morning and said, "Mama, your hands are glowing again. Does it hurt?" "Yes, baby. It hurts more than you'll ever know." She'd left her daughter with the only person she trusted, hidden away from the pack's judgment, from the council's fear. If they knew about her little girl, if they suspected she might carry the same curse. Elena shoved the thought away and ran faster, ignoring the sharp pain in her side where someone had landed a blow before she'd managed to escape. She could still smell the smoke from the council chamber, still feel the weight of their stares as they'd pronounced their verdict. Exile. Or death. She'd chosen to run. But now, bleeding and alone in a storm that matched the chaos inside her, she wondered if death might have been kinder. The ground suddenly gave way beneath her feet. Elena tumbled down a steep embankment, her body slamming against rocks and roots, the world spinning into a blur of darkness and pain. She landed hard at the bottom, the impact knocking what little breath she had left from her lungs. For a moment, she just lay there in the mud, rain pelting her face, every inch of her body screaming. The howls were closer now. So close she could hear the pounding of paws against earth, the snarls of wolves who'd once called her sister, once shared hunts and songs under the full moon. Now they wanted her dead. Elena rolled onto her side, trying to push herself up, but her arms gave out. The silver light from her mark spread up her forearm now, crawling like living fire beneath her skin. It was getting worse. She was losing control. Soon, the power would consume her completely, and she didn't know what would be left. Monster. That's what the Alpha had called her. The man who'd known her since birth, who'd watched her grow, who'd stood silent when the council demanded her head. The betrayal burned hotter than any flame. She heard them then, voices cutting through the storm. Close. Too close. She came this way. I can smell her blood. The Alpha wants her alive. He needs to know what she is before we end her. What if she shifts? What if she... She won't. Look at her. She's half dead already. Elena's fingers dug into the mud. Half dead. Maybe. But not broken. Not yet. She thought of her daughter's laugh, the way she hummed while she drew pictures of wolves and stars and moons. The way she'd touched Elena's mark this morning and whispered, "It's pretty, Mama." Like moonlight. That little girl was the only good thing Elena had ever created. The only pure thing in a life stained with fear and shame. And she would not let them take that away. She would not let them win, even if it killed her. The power inside her surged, responding to her desperation, her fury, her love. The silver light exploded outward, illuminating the forest in a blinding flash that sent the wolves stumbling back with howls of surprise and pain. Elena gasped, her whole body convulsing as the energy tore through her. She couldn't control it. Couldn't stop it. It was too much, too wild, too. And then, suddenly, it stopped. Not because she'd mastered it, but because something else had entered the clearing. Someone else. Elena lifted her head, rain streaming down her face, and saw him through the haze of pain and power. A man stood at the edge of the light, tall and impossibly still, his eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her chest tighten. He didn't flinch from the silver flames still dancing across her skin. Didn't recoil from the sight of her, broken and glowing and everything her pack had feared. He just looked at her, like he'd been searching for her his entire life. The wolves behind her had gone silent. Even the storm seemed to hold its breath. And Elena, bleeding and terrified and so very tired of running, stared back at the stranger who'd appeared out of nowhere and felt something shift deep in her chest. Something that whispered, "You're not alone anymore." But trust was a luxury she'd lost the right to long ago. So when he took a step toward her, his hand extended, his voice low and rough as he said her name, Elena, like he knew her, like he'd always known her, she did the only thing she could. She gathered what remained of her strength, let the silver fire flare one more time, and whispered into the storm, "Stay away from me." But even as the words left her lips, even as the darkness crept in at the edges of her vision and her body finally gave out, she felt his arms catch her before she hit the ground. And the last thing she heard before the world went black was his voice, steady and certain and impossibly gentle, promising her something she'd stopped believing in years ago. "I've got you. You're safe now." If you're already feeling the pull of this story, if Elena's desperate flight has stirred something in your chest and made you want to know what happens next, then do me a favor, hit that subscribe button right now. Join Shayla's romance library, because this is just the beginning. We're about to dive into a world of ancient prophecies, forbidden power, and a love that could either save her or destroy everything. Don't miss a single moment. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's fall into this story together. Now, where were we? Oh yes. Elena had just collapsed into the arms of a stranger. But he's not just any stranger, is he? Let's find out exactly who caught her when she fell. Consciousness returned slowly, like surfacing from deep water. Elena became aware of warmth first, not the feverish heat of her power, but something external, steady, almost comforting. Then came the scent. Pine and earth and something darker, wilder. Wolf, but not like any wolf she'd known before. This was ancient, primal, the kind of scent that made her instincts scream both danger and something else she couldn't name. She forced her eyes open, expecting pain, expecting the cold floor of a cell or worse. Instead, she found herself lying on soft furs in a space lit by a low fire. The walls around her were carved stone, rough and natural, like the interior of a cave, but shaped with deliberate care. Symbols she didn't recognize covered the surfaces, glowing faintly in the firelight. And sitting across from her, perfectly still, watching her with eyes that reflected gold in the darkness, was him. He was younger than she'd expected, late 20s, maybe early 30s, but there was something ancient in his gaze, something that suggested he'd lived 100 lifetimes in those years. His hair was dark, almost black, falling just past his shoulders. His jaw was sharp, his features carved like the stone walls around them, beautiful in a brutal, unforgiving way. But it was his eyes that held her. Gold, yes, but not just gold. They shifted with flecks of amber and bronze, and when he looked at her, it felt like he was seeing straight through to her bones. Elena tried to sit up, and pain lanced through her side. She gasped, her hand flying to the wound, but found it already bandaged. Clean cloth, wrapped with expert care. Someone had tended to her injuries. Someone had. You were dying when I found you. His voice was deep, rough around the edges, like gravel wrapped in silk. The silver poisoning was spreading. Another hour and your heart would have stopped. Silver poisoning. From her own power. Elena closed her eyes, shame flooding through her again. Even her own magic was killing her. Why did you help me? The words came out hoarse, her throat raw from screaming, from running, from holding back tears for far too long. Because I've been looking for you. Her eyes snapped open. What? He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his gaze never leaving hers. For 3 years, Elena. 3 years I've been searching every pack, every territory, following rumors of a woman with silver fire in her veins. A woman marked by the moon herself. Elena's hand instinctively went to her wrist, covering the mark that even now pulsed with faint light beneath the bandages someone had wrapped around it. How do you know my name? She tried to inject strength into her voice, but it came out as barely more than a whisper. Who are you? My name is Damon. He said it simply, like it should mean something to her. When she just stared at him blankly, something flickered across his face. Disappointment? Relief? Damon Blackthorne. Alpha of the Northern Territory. And before you ask, yes, I know what you are. I know what happened to you. I know your pack cast you out, called you cursed, tried to hunt you down like an animal. Each word landed like a blow. Elena flinched, her chest tightening. If you know all that, then why am I still alive? Why aren't you dragging me back to them for whatever reward they're offering? There is no reward. Damon's voice went hard, cold. Your former alpha declared you dead 3 days ago. He told his pack you'd been killed in the storm. As far as they know, you're already gone. Dead. They'd declared her dead. Elena should have felt relief, but instead, a hollow ache opened in her chest. Dead meant her daughter would grow up believing her mother had abandoned her. Dead meant she could never go back, could never. Your daughter is safe. Damon said it quietly, but the words hit like thunder. Elena's breath caught. She's with the woman you left her with. They both believe you're on a journey, that you'll return when it's safe. I made sure of it. You, Elena's voice broke. How do you know about my daughter? Because I know everything about you, Elena Ashwood. He stood then, moving with a predator's grace, and she noticed for the first time how tall he was, how broad his shoulders were beneath the dark shirt he wore. He moved to the fire, staring into the flames as he spoke. I know you were born under a blood moon. I know your mother died in childbirth and your father raised you alone until he was killed by rogues when you were 12. I know you joined the Riverside Pack seeking protection and found only suspicion. I know your mark appeared on your 18th birthday, the same night you first shifted, and that your wolf is silver, pure silver, like moonlight made flesh. Elena couldn't breathe. He was reciting her life like he'd been there for every moment, every heartbreak, every loss. I know you fell in love with a wolf named Thomas. I know he promised to stand by you when your power manifested. And I know he was the first one to call for your execution when the council convened. The words cut deeper than any claw. Elena felt tears burning behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of this stranger who somehow knew her deepest wounds. Why? She forced the question out. Why do you know all this? Why were you searching for me? Damon turned then, and the look on his face made her heart stutter. It wasn't cruelty. It wasn't judgment. It was something far more dangerous. It was recognition. Because I've seen you before. He moved closer, kneeling beside where she lay so they were eye to eye. In dreams. In visions. In prophecies spoken by oracles who died centuries ago. You're not cursed, Elena. You're not a mistake. You're... Don't. Elena cut him off, her voice sharp despite her weakness. Don't tell me I'm special. Don't tell me I'm meant for something greater. I've heard it all before, and it's all lies. I'm just a woman who can't control the power inside her. A woman whose own pack wanted her dead. A woman who had to leave her child behind because being near me put her in danger. You're the silver wolf of the prophecy. Damon said it with absolute certainty, ignoring her protests. The one who carries the blood of the first wolves. The one marked by the moon goddess herself. The one who will either save our kind or burn us all to ash. Silence filled the cave. Elena stared at him, waiting for the punchline, for the moment when he'd laugh and reveal this was all some cruel joke. But his face remained serious, his eyes never wavering. "You're insane," she finally said. "Maybe." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "But I'm also right. And deep down, you know it. You've always known you were different. That your power was too much, too wild, too dangerous." Elena finished. "Yes, I know. That's why I need to leave. I need to go far away where I can't hurt anyone else. You can't run from what you are. Watch me." She tried to stand, to push herself up despite the pain screaming through her body, but her legs wouldn't support her weight. She stumbled, and Damon caught her, his hands firm but gentle on her arms, steadying her. For a moment, they were close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his skin, could see the flecks of amber in those impossible gold eyes, could smell that intoxicating scent of pine and wilderness and something uniquely him. "Let me go," she whispered, but even she could hear the lack of conviction in her voice. "I will," Damon said softly. "When you can stand on your own. When you're healed. When you're strong enough to make the choice without it being made for you by pain and fear." "And if I still choose to leave?" Something flickered in his eyes. "Pain? Acceptance? Then I'll let you go. But first, give me 3 days. 3 days to show you what you really are. 3 days to prove that you're not the monster they convinced you were." Elena wanted to say no. Wanted to pull away, to run like she'd been running for years. But she was so tired. So tired of fighting alone, of carrying this burden in silence, of believing that she was nothing but a curse to everyone she loved. And something about the way he looked at her, the way he'd known her name in that storm, the way he'd caught her when she fell, it made her want to believe. Just for a moment. Just long enough to catch her breath. 3 days, she finally said. "But if you're lying to me, if this is some trick." "It's not." Damon helped her back down to the furs, his touch careful, almost reverent. "I swear on my pack, on my alpha bond, on everything I am, I will not harm you. I will not betray you. All I want is to show you the truth." Elena settled back, exhaustion pulling at her edges. As her eyes began to drift closed, she heard him speak again, so soft she almost missed it. "I've been waiting for you, Elena. We all have. And now that you're here, everything changes." She wanted to ask what he meant. Wanted to demand answers, explanations, proof. But sleep was claiming her, dragging her down into darkness that felt less threatening with him nearby. The last thing she felt before unconsciousness took her was the strange, terrifying sensation of being exactly where she was supposed to be. And that scared her more than anything. Elena woke to the sound of rain. Not the violent storm from before, but a steady, gentle rhythm against stone. Morning light filtered through gaps in the cave entrance, soft and gray. She lay still for a moment, cataloging her body's condition. The pain in her side had dulled to a manageable ache. Her head felt clearer. Even the constant burn of her power had subsided to a low simmer beneath her skin. Damon was gone, but evidence of his presence remained. Fresh bandages sat beside her. A bowl of water, still warm. And next to it, a plate with bread, cheese, and dried meat. Her stomach cramped with hunger, and she realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten. As she ate, memories began to surface. Not of last night, but of before. Of the life she'd tried so hard to forget. She was 7 years old, standing in the ashes of what used to be her home. Her father's body lay 10 feet away, torn apart by the rogues who'd attacked in the night. The other pack members had arrived too late to save him, but just in time to see little Elena kneeling in the dirt, her hands pressed against the ground, silver light spreading out from her fingers like roots. Asterisk. "What is she?" someone had whispered. Asterisk. "Unnatural," another had answered. Asterisk. That was the first time she'd heard the word. But it wouldn't be the last. Asterisk. Elena shook her head, pushing the memory away, but others rushed in to take its place. They always did when she was weak, when her defenses were down. She was 14, sitting alone at the edge of the Riverside Pax gathering as they celebrated the full moon. Thomas had approached her, all easy smiles and confident charm. "Why aren't you dancing?" he'd asked. Asterisk. "They don't want me to," she'd answered honestly. "They say I make the moon nervous." Asterisk. He'd laughed, thinking it was a joke. "That's ridiculous. Here." He'd held out his hand. "Dance with me." Asterisk. That was the night she'd started to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could have a normal life. That maybe someone could look past what she was and see who she was. Asterisk. She'd been so stupid. Asterisk. Elena's hand tightened around the bread. Thomas. The man who'd sworn he loved her. The man who'd held her when her power first manifested in its full form, when silver flames had erupted from her hands and set the forest ablaze. He'd promised her it didn't matter, that they would figure it out together. Elena Ashwood. The head elder's voice had been cold, final. "You stand accused of wielding forbidden magic. Of carrying a bloodline that should have died out centuries ago. Of being a threat to the natural order of our kind." Asterisk. She'd looked at Thomas then, standing with the other warriors, silently begging him to speak up, to defend her like he'd promised. Asterisk. But he'd just stared at the ground. Asterisk. And then the Alpha had spoken. "What say you, Thomas? You who have been closest to her. Is she a danger to this pack?" Asterisk. The silence that followed had lasted an eternity. Asterisk. "Yes," Thomas had finally said, his voice barely a whisper. "She is." Asterisk. The silver fire had exploded from Elena then, not in anger, but in pure, undiluted heartbreak. It had taken 5 wolves to contain her, 10 to drag her to the holding cell. And when they'd finally locked her away, she'd curled up on the cold stone floor and wished, for the first time in her life, that her father had let her die the night the rogues attacked. Asterisk. At least then, she wouldn't have to feel this. Asterisk. "You're awake." Elena's head snapped up. Damon stood at the cave entrance, rain dripping from his hair, his shirt plastered to his skin. He carried something wrapped in cloth, more supplies, she guessed. "How long was I asleep?" she asked, her voice still rough. 14 hours. He set the bundle down and moved to the fire, adding wood with practiced efficiency. "Your body needed it. The silver poisoning was severe. You're lucky your wolf is strong." "Lucky," Elena repeated bitterly. "That's not a word I'd use to describe myself." Damon glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "No, I suppose it wouldn't be. But you're alive. Given where you were 2 days ago, that alone is a miracle." 2 days. Her daughter's face flashed through her mind, and Elena's chest tightened. "You said she's safe." "My daughter. How do you know?" "Because I have people watching over her." Damon sat down across from her, his movements careful, non-threatening. "The woman you left her with, Margaret, isn't it? She's a good guardian. She doesn't know what you are, but she loves your daughter like her own. The child is happy, Elena. She's cared for." Tears burned behind Elena's eyes. "I never wanted to leave her. I never." "I know." Damon's voice was gentle. "You left to protect her. Because you knew that if your pack discovered she existed, they'd look for signs of the mark in her too. They'd wait for her power to manifest, and if it did, they'd kill her before she could become what they feared." The words were brutal in their honesty, but Elena couldn't deny them. That was exactly why she'd run. Not to save herself, but to draw the pack's attention away from her baby girl. "She's 4 years old," Elena whispered. "She loves stories and drawing and collecting rocks that sparkle. She asked me once why my hands glowed sometimes, and I told her it was because I swallowed moonlight when I was little." A broken laugh escaped her. She thought that was the most magical thing she'd ever heard. "What's her name?" Elena hesitated. Names had power, especially in their world. But something about the way Damon asked, the softness in his voice, made her answer. "Lily. Her name is Lily." "That's beautiful." Damon leaned back, his eyes never leaving hers. "Tell me about her. Tell me everything." And so she did. The words poured out of her like a dam breaking. Stories of Lily's first steps, her first word, the way she hummed herself to sleep, The way she insisted on wearing her favorite yellow dress even when it was muddy and torn. Elena talked about bedtime stories and scraped knees and the 1,000 tiny moments that made up a life, a love, a reason to keep breathing even when everything else had fallen apart. Damon listened to all of it. He didn't interrupt, didn't judge, didn't look at her like she was a monster who didn't deserve such happiness. He just listened. When she finally ran out of words, her throat raw and her eyes burning with unshed tears, she found herself asking, "Do you have children?" No, something dark crossed his face. "My pack is my family. There's never been anyone I wanted to bind myself to that way." "Why not?" "Because I've been waiting." He met her eyes. "For you." The words should have sounded absurd, presumptuous, insane. But the way he said them, with such quiet certainty, made Elena's heart stutter. "You don't know me," she protested weakly. "I know you left everything behind to protect your daughter. I know you've survived things that would have broken anyone else. I know you're sitting here, wounded and hunted and terrified, and you're still thinking about everyone else before yourself." He shifted closer, his voice dropping. "I know that mark on your wrist burns sometimes, doesn't it? Like ice and fire at once. I know the silver flame doesn't just come from your hands, it lives in your chest, coiled around your heart, and you're scared that one day it's going to consume you completely." Elena's breath caught. "How?" "Because I felt it too." Damon rolled up his sleeve, and Elena's world tilted. There, on his wrist, was a mark. Not the same as hers, but unmistakably connected. Where hers was silver, his was black. A wolf silhouette beneath a crescent moon, the same shape as her own but inverted, like a shadow to her light. "The prophecy spoke of two wolves," Damon said quietly. "One silver, one shadow. One born of moonlight, one born of darkness. Separate, they're powerful but unstable. Together, they're impossible," Elena interrupted. "That's what they are. Together. Myths. Stories. Nothing more." "Is that what you really believe?" Damon's eyes searched hers. "Or is that what you've been told to believe because the truth scares them too much?" Elena wanted to argue, to dismiss him, to run. But she couldn't look away from that mark on his wrist, couldn't ignore the way her own mark pulsed in response, like a heartbeat calling to another. "Why me?" The question came out broken. "Why am I like this? What did I do to deserve?" "You didn't do anything." Damon's voice was fierce now, almost angry, but not at her. Never at her. "You were born this way. Chosen this way. The moon goddess herself put that mark on you, Elena. It's not a curse. It's a gift. A responsibility. A burden." Elena cut him off. "It's a burden that's cost me everything. My home. My pack. The man I loved. My ability to raise my own daughter. If this is a gift, then the goddess has a cruel sense of humor." "Maybe." Damon didn't deny it. "But gifts and burdens are often the same thing, aren't they? The question is what you do with them. Do you let them destroy you? Or do you learn to wield them?" "I can't control it." "Not yet. But you can learn. From you." Elena's voice dripped with skepticism. "From yourself." Damon stood, extending his hand to her. "Come with me. I want to show you something." Elena stared at his hand, at the mark on his wrist that matched her own in ways she didn't understand, at the offer of trust from a man who'd appeared out of nowhere and claimed to have been searching for her for years. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse. To keep her walls up, her heart closed, her power locked away where it couldn't hurt anyone. But then she thought of Lily. Thought of the daughter she'd left behind, the daughter who would grow up with questions Elena would never be able to answer. And she thought, what if he's right? What if I could learn to control this? What if I could go back to her not as a danger, but as a mother who could actually protect her? It was that fragile, desperate hope that made Elena reach out and take Damon's hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and solid and impossibly steady. And when she stood, when their marks touched for the briefest moment, silver light and shadow intertwined, and Elena felt something inside her shift. Something that whispered, "This is only the beginning." Damon led her deeper into the cave system, through passages that seemed to have been carved by time itself. Elena noticed the symbols on the walls growing more elaborate, more intentional. These weren't random markings. They were a language, a history written in stone. Her mark pulsed with every step, growing brighter the further they went. She tried to hide it, pulling her sleeve down, but Damon noticed. "Don't fight it," he said over his shoulder. "Your power knows where we're going. It's responding to the ancient magic here." "What is this place?" "The first den." Damon's voice echoed off the stone. "Where the first wolves gathered before packs existed, before territories were divided. This is where our kind began." The passage opened suddenly into a massive cavern that took Elena's breath away. The ceiling stretched high above them, disappearing into shadow. But it was what covered the walls that made her stop dead in her tracks. Images. Hundreds of them. Carved and painted and etched into every surface. Wolves running beneath full moons. Battles between creatures she didn't recognize. And in the center of it all, dominating the far wall, was a massive depiction of two wolves, one silver, one black, standing side by side beneath a moon that seemed to glow with its own light. "The prophecy," Elena whispered. "More than that." Damon moved to the center of the cavern, where a circular altar sat carved from a single piece of stone. "This is the origin story of what we are. What we're meant to be." He gestured to the images surrounding them. 3,000 years ago, before humans had spread across the world, before modern packs existed, our kind was different. Stronger. Wilder. The first wolves could shift at will, regardless of the moon. They lived for centuries. Their power was terrifying, Elena finished, staring at the depictions of wolves the size of horses, their eyes glowing with power. Yes, Damon didn't sugarcoat it, but also necessary. Because they weren't the only ones with power. There were other creatures then. Darker things. And the wolves stood between them and the humans who were just beginning to build their civilizations. He moved closer to the central image. But power that great always comes with a cost. The wolves began to lose themselves. They became more beasts than being. They forgot what it meant to be human. They forgot mercy, compassion, love. They were becoming the very monsters they'd sworn to fight against. Elena found herself drawn forward, her eyes tracing the images. She could see it, the progression from noble guardians to savage killers. So the moon goddess intervened. Damon's voice dropped, reverent. She appeared to the eldest alpha and told him that his kind must change. They must become weaker, more human, more bound to the cycles of the moon. Only then could they maintain their humanity. But the alpha refused. Elena somehow knew this part without being told. He did. He believed that strength was all that mattered. That power was the only thing that kept them alive. So the goddess made a choice. She split the power in two. Damon pointed to the silver wolf. Half went to his daughter, the gentlest of the pack, the one who'd argued for mercy, who'd tried to maintain their humanity even as the others lost themselves to their beasts. The goddess marked her with silver light and told her she would carry the power of life, of healing, of creation. His finger moved to the black wolf. And half went to his son, the strongest warrior, the one who'd fought the hardest battles, who'd protected the pack from every threat. The goddess marked him with shadow and told him he would carry the power of death, of strength, of destruction. Elena's mark burned. What happened to them? No one knows for certain. The prophecy says they went into the world separately, founding their own lines, passing their marks down through generations. But it also says that someday, when our kind faces its greatest threat, when the darkness returns in force, the two will be born again in the same era. And when their marks touch, when they stand together, the original power will awaken. He turned to face her fully. For 3,000 years, we've waited for that moment. And in all that time, both marks have never appeared simultaneously. Until now. The weight of his words pressed down on Elena like a physical thing. You're saying I'm, what? The reincarnation of some ancient wolf goddess. I'm saying you carry her bloodline. Her power. Her mark. Damon held up his wrist, showing his own mark. And I carry the shadow line. We're not reincarnations, Elena. We're descendants. Chosen by fate or genetics or divine will, call it whatever you want. But we're here, now, and our marks have awakened. That means something. That means the prophecy is in motion. And what does the prophecy say happens next? Elena's voice was barely a whisper. Damon was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his words were careful, measured. It says that when the silver and shadow reunite, they'll face a choice. Stand together and restore the balance our kind has lost, bringing us back to the strength and wisdom of the ancients. Or fail and watch our entire species descend into the same savagery that nearly destroyed us before. No pressure then, Elena said weakly. I know this is overwhelming. Damon moved closer, his eyes searching hers. I know you didn't ask for this. That you just want to go back to your daughter and live a normal life. But Elena, the reason your power has been so unstable, the reason it's been poisoning you, it's because you're only half of a whole. You've been trying to carry something that was never meant to be born alone. He held out his hand again, and Elena saw his mark glowing now, black fire dancing across his skin in mirror to her silver. I can help you control it. I can teach you to embrace what you are instead of fighting it. But more than that, his voice softened. You don't have to be alone anymore. You don't have to carry this burden by yourself. Elena stared at his outstretched hand, at the mark that called to her own like a missing piece of her soul. Everything in her wanted to believe him. Wanted to take that hand and let someone else share the weight she'd been carrying for so long. But trust had betrayed her before. How do I know this isn't just another way to use me? The question came out raw, honest. How do I know you're not like everyone else who's looked at my power and seen a weapon instead of a person? Damon's expression shifted, pain flickering across his features so quickly she almost missed it. He lowered his hand but didn't step away. You don't, he said simply. I can't prove my intentions with words, Elena. I can only show you through actions. That's why I asked for 3 days. Not to force you into anything, but to give you the chance to decide for yourself whether I'm telling the truth. He gestured to the cavern around them. This place, it responds to the marks. To our power. If you want to understand what you really are, if you want to see that you're not cursed or broken or wrong, stay. Let me show you. And if at the end of 3 days you still want to walk away, I'll help you. I'll make sure you and Lily have safe passage anywhere you want to go. I'll give you resources, protection, whatever you need. No strings. No obligations. Why would you do that? Because you deserve a choice. Damon's voice was fierce. Something no one else has ever given you. You deserve to choose your own path, free from fear and judgment and people telling you what you should be. Elena's throat tightened. When was the last time someone had offered her a choice? When was the last time anyone had asked what she wanted instead of telling her what she had to do? She looked at the images surrounding them, the silver wolf and the shadow wolf, standing together beneath that ancient moon. And she thought about Lily, thought about the kind of mother she wanted to be. Not a woman running and hiding and afraid of her own shadow, but someone strong, someone certain, someone who could protect her daughter from anything. One day, she finally said, "You get one day. Show me what you're talking about. Show me that I'm not just a danger to everyone around me. And then I'll decide if I stay for the other two." A smile crossed Damon's face, the first real one she'd seen from him. It transformed his features, made him look younger, less burdened. One day. That's all I need. He moved to the altar at the center of the cavern and placed his hand on the stone. Immediately, the symbols carved into its surface began to glow with soft black light. Put your hand next to mine. Elena hesitated only a moment before stepping forward. The moment her palm touched the stone, silver light erupted from the symbols, intertwining with the black until the entire altar blazed with combined power. The cavern responded. Every image on the walls illuminated, and Elena gasped as she felt something surge through her, not pain, but recognition. Like coming home after a long journey. Like remembering something she'd forgotten centuries ago. "What is this?" she breathed. "This is your heritage," Damon said, his voice filled with awe. "This is proof that you're exactly what the prophecy said you'd be." Look. Elena lifted her eyes to the central image of the two wolves, and her breath caught. Because now, with the combined light of their marks illuminating it, she could see details that hadn't been visible before. The silver wolf had markings, the same pattern that covered Elena's wrist. And the shadow wolf bore Damon's mark exactly. But there was more. Between the two wolves, barely visible, were words carved in the ancient language. "Can you read it?" she asked. Damon's expression grew solemn. "Two shall come when darkness rises. One of silver, one of shadow. Apart, they are storm and chaos. Together, they are dawn breaking. The silver shall heal what is broken. The shadow shall protect what is precious. And when they stand as one, the old ways shall return, and our kind shall remember what we once were." The words resonated through Elena like a bell, settling into her bones, her blood, her very soul. She felt her power respond, not the violent, uncontrolled surge she was used to, but something steadier, calmer. Like it recognized something in Damon's presence that she was only beginning to understand. "I don't know how to be what the prophecy says I should be," she admitted quietly. "I'm just a woman who can barely control her own power. Who failed at keeping her pack. Who had to abandon her daughter. How am I supposed to heal anything when I'm the one who's broken?" "You're not broken." Damon moved around the altar until he stood directly in front of her. "You're wounded. There's a difference. Broken things can't be fixed. But wounds heal, Elena. Especially when you stop trying to carry them alone." He reached out slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, and gently rolled up her sleeve to expose her mark fully. The silver light pulsed beneath his gaze, brighter than she'd ever seen it. "Your power isn't trying to destroy you," he said softly. "It's trying to protect you. Every time you push it down, every time you tell yourself you're a monster, you're fighting against the very thing that's meant to keep you alive. The poison, the pain, that's what happens when you war with yourself." "Then how do I stop fighting it?" "You accept it." Damon's thumb traced the edge of her mark, and Elena shivered at the contact. Not from fear, but from something else entirely. You stop seeing it as a curse and start seeing it as what it really is. A gift. A responsibility. A part of you as essential as your heartbeat. "I'm scared," Elena whispered. "I'm scared of what I'll become if I let it in completely." "I know." Damon's eyes met hers, and in them, she saw understanding. Not pity. Not judgment. Just recognition. "But you're more scared of staying like this forever. Of never being able to go back to Lily. Of always running, always hiding, always half alive because you're too afraid to fully exist." He was right. God help her, he was right. And standing here in this ancient place, with her mark glowing and his so close she could feel the heat of it, Elena made a decision. "Teach me," she said. "Show me how to stop fighting myself." Damon smiled, that real, transformative smile again. "First lesson, your power responds to emotion. Fear makes it wild. Anger makes it destructive. But do you know what makes it stable?" Elena shook her head. "Purpose." He took her hand, his mark pressing against hers, and Elena felt the surge of power, silver and shadow intertwining, balancing, completing. When you have something to protect, something to fight for, something that matters more than your fear, that's when your power becomes controllable. That's when it becomes yours. "Lily," Elena breathed. "Yes, but also yourself. You have to believe you're worth protecting too, Elena. You have to fight for your own right to exist." The words hit something deep inside her. How long had it been since she'd believed she deserved to exist? Since she'd fought for herself instead of just surviving? "I don't know if I can," she admitted. "Then let me believe it for both of us," Damon said. "Until you're ready to believe it yourself." And there, in that ancient cavern with their marks pressed together and the weight of 3,000 years of prophecy surrounding them, Elena felt something shift inside her. Not acceptance yet. Not full trust. But the beginning of possibility. The beginning of hope. The light from the altar began to fade, returning the cavern to flickering shadows. But Elena's mark continued to glow softly, steadier than before. Less painful. Less chaotic. "Come on," Damon said, releasing her hand though his eyes lingered on hers. "There's more I want to show you. And you need to eat properly." You're still recovering. As they made their way back through the passages, Elena found herself asking, why haven't you found your mate? If you're the shadow line, shouldn't there be someone? There is someone, Damon interrupted quietly. There's always been someone. I just had to wait for her to be ready to find me. Elena's steps faltered. You mean? The prophecy speaks of two wolves, Damon said, not looking at her. Two marks. Two halves of an ancient whole. The silver and the shadow. It doesn't just mean we're meant to work together, Elena. It means we're meant to. Don't. Elena's voice came out sharper than she intended. Don't tell me we're fated mates or soulmates or whatever romantic notion you've built up in your head. I just escaped from one man who claimed to love me and then tried to have me killed. I'm not ready to. I know. Damon stopped, turning to face her. I'm not asking you to love me. I'm not even asking you to like me. All I'm asking is that you give yourself the chance to understand what you are. What we are together. The rest, he shrugged. The rest will happen if it's meant to. Or it won't. Either way, you'll have the knowledge and power to choose your own path. Elena studied his face, looking for deception, for hidden agenda, for any sign that he was like Thomas. Promising one thing while planning another. But all she saw was patience. And something that looked dangerously like hope. One day, she repeated. That's all you get. One day, Damon agreed. But I promise you, by the end of it, you'll see yourself differently. You'll understand that you're not the monster they convinced you were. Elena wanted to believe him. More than she'd wanted anything in a long time. So she followed him back through the passages, back toward the warmth and light of the main chamber, and tried to ignore the voice in her head that whispered she was making a mistake. That trust had never ended well for her before. That hope was just another word for eventual heartbreak. But even as those thoughts circled, even as her walls tried to rebuild themselves, Elena couldn't deny the truth settling into her bones. For the first time in years, she didn't feel completely alone. And that terrified her more than anything. They ate in comfortable silence, Damon preparing a simple meal over the fire while Elena tried to process everything she'd seen and heard. The symbols in the cavern. The prophecy. The way her power had responded to his presence, to their marks touching. It should have felt like a fairy tale. Like some impossible story that couldn't be real. But the steady pulse of her mark, the absence of pain for the first time in months, told her otherwise. Tell me about your pack, Elena said finally, breaking the silence. The Northern Territory. What are they like? Damon's expression shifted, becoming more guarded. They're complicated. Strong. Loyal. But also traditional. Set in their ways. Do they know about me? About what you've been searching for? Some do. My inner circle. My beta, my second. They know the prophecy. They know I've been tracking rumors of the silver mark for years. He paused, his jaw tightening. But they don't all believe. And not all of them want the old ways to return. Elena's stomach sank. They'll see me as a threat. Some will. Damon didn't sugarcoat it. The prophecy speaks of power returning to our kind, of us becoming what we once were. But not everyone wants that. Some are comfortable with the way things are. Some fear change more than they fear our enemies. Then why are you doing this? Elena set down her food, her appetite suddenly gone. If your own pack doesn't support you, if bringing me there will cause conflict. Because what we want and what we need aren't always the same thing, Damon interrupted. My pack has survived for generations by being strong, by being careful, by maintaining the status quo. But the world is changing, Elena. There are threats emerging that our current strength can't match. Rogues organizing in ways we've never seen before. Ancient enemies we thought were extinct returning. If we don't evolve, if we don't reclaim some of what we've lost, we won't survive the next decade. Elena absorbed this, her mind racing. You're not just looking for a partner to fulfill some prophecy. You need a weapon. No, Damon's voice turned sharp. I need an equal. Someone who can stand beside me, not behind me. Someone who can. He cut off abruptly, his head snapping toward the cave entrance. His entire body went rigid, every muscle tensing. What is it? Elena whispered, but she already knew. She could feel it too, a disturbance in the air, a wrongness that made her mark flare with warning. We need to leave. Damon was on his feet instantly, moving with lethal grace toward a hidden alcove where Elena now saw supplies cached away. Now, what's happening? They found us. He threw her a pack, already stuffed with essentials. Your old pack. They must have tracked. A howl split the air. Close. Too close. And it wasn't alone. Others joined it, a chorus of voices raised in hunting song. Elena's blood turned to ice. She recognized those voices. Had run with them, hunted with them, called them family. They said I was dead, she breathed. You said, they declared. Someone must have seen us. Or sensed the power we released in the ancient chamber. Damon cursed under his breath, strapping weapons to his belt with practiced efficiency. The prophecy chamber is supposed to be hidden, protected by old magic. But your mark is strong, Elena. When it activated, when our powers combined, it must have sent out a signal. A beacon. So I led them right to you. Guilt crashed over Elena. This is my fault. I should never have. Don't. Damon gripped her shoulders, forcing her to meet his eyes. This was always going to happen. They were always going to come looking. The only question is whether we run or we stand. There are at least a dozen of them out there, Elena said, her enhanced hearing picking up the sound of paws on stone, of bodies moving through the forest. And I can barely walk without pain. We can't. Then we run. Damon released her, moving toward a darker passage at the back of the cave. There's another way out. It leads to... The cave entrance exploded inward. Not metaphorically. Literally exploded, stone and earth and force combining to tear through the opening and reveal the wolves beyond. They poured in like a flood, massive shifted forms, eyes glowing in the firelight, teeth bared and ready for blood. Elena stumbled backward, her power surging in response to the threat. Silver light erupted from her hands, wild and uncontrolled, and she felt the familiar burn of poison spreading through her veins as her body rejected its own magic. Elena, focus. Damon's voice cut through her panic. Remember what I told you, purpose. Find your purpose. But Elena couldn't think past the terror, past the sight of her former pack members circling them like predators. And at the front of the group, stepping through the destroyed entrance in human form, was the last person she ever wanted to see again. Thomas. He looked different than she remembered. Harder. His eyes cold in a way they'd never been when they were together. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who'd risen in rank since she'd left. Elena Ashwood. He said her name like a curse. The council will be pleased to know the rumors of your survival were true. Thomas, please. Elena hated the way her voice shook. I'm not a threat. I left. I stayed away. You were seen. Thomas cut her off. 2 days ago, a patrol spotted a surge of silver light coming from these mountains. Power that matched your signature. Did you really think we wouldn't investigate? She's under my protection. Damon stepped forward, placing himself between Elena and the pack. His voice carried a different kind of authority, not just rank, but something deeper. Ancient. She's claimed sanctuary in my territory. By law of the old codes, you have no right to. The old codes died centuries ago, Thomas snarled. And you have no authority here, Northern Alpha. This is Riverside Pack business. Then make it my business. Damon's eyes flashed gold. Because I'm claiming her. Right here, right now. She's under my pack's protection. She's marked for execution. A new voice joined the conversation, and Elena's heart sank completely. Alpha Marcus stepped into the cave, and the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. He was older than Elena remembered, his hair more gray than black now, but his presence was still overwhelming. This was the man who'd known her since she was 12. Who'd given her a place in his pack. Who'd stood silent when the council demanded her death. Marcus, please. Elena tried again, even though she knew it was useless. I'm not a danger anymore. I've learned to control. You'll never control it. Marcus's voice was flat, final. Because you're an abomination, Elena. A mistake that should have been corrected years ago. We were merciful before, giving you a chance to leave quietly. but you've forced our hand. He gestured to the wolves surrounding them. Take her. Kill the Northern Alpha if he interferes. The council has already approved this action. Everything happened at once. Damon shifted, a transformation so fast Elena barely saw it. One moment he was human, the next a massive black wolf with eyes like molten gold stood beside her, lips pulled back in a snarl that promised violence. The riverside wolves charged, and Elena's power exploded outward. Silver fire erupted from her entire body, not just her hands. It filled the cave with blinding light, and she heard the wolves yelp as they scattered from the intensity. But she couldn't stop it, couldn't control it. The poison was spreading faster now, her heart racing, her vision starting to blur. She was going to die here, going to lose control completely and take everyone with her. Elena! Damon's voice, somehow still human despite his wolf form, cut through the chaos. Look at me. Focus on my voice. But she couldn't. There were too many threats, too much fear, too much. A wolf broke through the wall of silver fire. Thomas, his shifted form massive and scarred, lunged directly at her throat. Elena threw up her hands instinctively, and the silver flame concentrated, forming into something solid. Something sharp. A blade of pure light. It pierced through Thomas's shoulder, and he howled, falling back. But the effort cost Elena everything. She felt her legs give out, felt the darkness creeping in at the edges of her vision. The last thing she saw before consciousness fled was Damon standing over her, his black wolf form merged with shadows that seemed to come from nowhere, fighting off a dozen wolves at once while a sound like thunder filled the cave. And then, nothing. When Elena woke this time, they were moving. She was wrapped in something warm, a cloak, she realized, and pressed against a broad chest that rumbled with each breath. Damon, back in human form, carrying her through the forest at a pace that should have been impossible. Don't speak, he said before she could ask. Save your strength. We're not safe yet. Elena tried to assess the damage. Her body felt like it had been torn apart and badly reassembled. The silver poisoning had spread further. She could feel it in her blood, in her bones. She was dying. Slowly, but certainly. How bad? She managed to whisper. Bad enough. Damon's arms tightened around her. You used too much power too fast. Your body can't process it properly because you're still fighting it. We need to get you somewhere safe, somewhere I can. A howl split the night. Distant, but closing fast. They're still following us? Elena's voice cracked. Of course they are. Damon veered left, moving deeper into unfamiliar territory. You wounded Thomas in front of his alpha. You embarrassed them. And worse, you proved you're exactly as powerful as they feared. They can't let you live now, Elena. You're too much of a threat. Then leave me. The words hurt to say, but Elena forced them out. I'll slow you down. Shut up. Damon's voice was harsh, but his grip was gentle. I didn't wait 3 years to find you just to abandon you the first time things got difficult. You barely know me. I know enough. He jumped a fallen log without breaking stride. I know you're stubborn and scared and far stronger than you give yourself credit for. I know you love your daughter more than your own life. I know you'd rather die than put someone else in danger. And I know that if you would just stop fighting yourself for 5 minutes, you'd realize you're exactly what the prophecy said you'd be. Elena wanted to argue, but another wave of pain stole her breath. The poison was spreading faster now. She could feel it creeping toward her heart. Damon. She gripped his shirt, forcing him to look down at her. If I don't make it, you will. If I don't, she insisted, promise me you'll make sure Lily is safe. Promise me you'll protect her. She's with Margaret Thorne in the human settlement 2 territories east of here. She has a small house on the edge of the woods with blue shutters. Promise me you'll. I promise. Damon's jaw was set, his eyes fierce. But you're going to be the one to take care of her. You're going to survive this, Elena. I won't accept anything else. Another howl. Closer now. Too close. Damon cursed and changed direction again, heading toward what sounded like rushing water. Hold on to me, he ordered. And whatever you do, don't let go. Before Elena could ask what he meant, They burst through the tree line and she saw it, a river, swollen from recent rains, churning white with rapids. No, Elena shook her head weakly. Damon, we can't. Trust me. He looked down at her, and in his eyes, she saw absolute certainty. I know this is asking a lot. I know you have every reason not to trust me. But I'm asking anyway. Trust me. Just this once. The howls were right behind them now. Elena could smell the riverside wolves, could hear their paws pounding against earth as they closed in for the kill. She looked at Damon. This man who'd appeared out of nowhere, who claimed she was part of some ancient prophecy, who'd fought her entire pack to protect her. This man whose mark matched hers, whose presence calmed her power instead of inflaming it. This man who, for reasons she couldn't fully understand, she was starting to believe. Okay, she whispered. I trust you. Damon's expression shifted relief and something deeper, something that looked like wonder, and then he jumped. They hit the water like a stone, the cold stealing Elena's breath, the current immediately grabbing them and pulling them under. She felt Damon's arms lock around her, felt his power surge, not silver like hers, but shadow, darkness that wrapped around them like a cocoon, protecting them from the worst of the rocks and rapids. They tumbled through the water, over falls, around bends, and Elena lost all sense of time and direction. All she knew was Damon's arms around her, his power mingling with hers, keeping her alive when her body wanted to give up. And then, finally, they surfaced. Damon dragged them both onto a muddy bank, coughing up water, his arms still refusing to release her. They lay there for a moment, both gasping, both alive. Did we lose them? Elena managed. For now. Damon pushed wet hair out of his face, scanning the tree line. The river will have broken our scent trail. But they'll spread out, search the banks. We have maybe an hour before. He stopped, his entire body going rigid again. What? Elena tried to sit up, but her body wouldn't cooperate. We're not alone. Damon slowly got to his feet, placing himself between Elena and whatever he'd sensed. Show yourself, he called out. We don't want trouble. Too late for that. A woman's voice drifted from the shadows of the forest. You brought the trouble with you. A figure emerged from the trees. A wolf in human form, but unlike any Elena had seen before. She was ancient, her hair silver white, her eyes carrying a weight of centuries. She wore robes covered in the same symbols Elena had seen in the prophecy chamber, and she radiated power that made even Damon tense. Oracle Miriam, Damon breathed, and Elena heard genuine shock in his voice. What are you doing this far south? Waiting for her. The old woman's eyes fixed on Elena, and Elena felt like she was being seen all the way down to her soul. The silver one. The child of moonlight. The broken vessel trying to hold a power meant for two. She moved closer, her steps sure despite her apparent age, and knelt beside Elena. One weathered hand reached out, pressing against Elena's chest directly over her heart. You're dying, Miriam said simply. The silver poison has spread too far. Another day, maybe two, and your heart will stop. Can you help her? Damon dropped to his knees beside them, his voice urgent. Please. There must be something. There is. Miriam's eyes shifted to Damon. But it requires a choice. And not from you, shadow child. From her. Elena struggled to focus through the pain. What kind of choice? The poison kills you because you're incomplete, Miriam explained. You're trying to wield a power that was never meant to be used alone. There are only two ways to survive it. Either you renounce the mark entirely, let me sever your connection to the silver line, and live as a normal wolf. Or, Elena pressed. Miriam's gaze moved between Elena and Damon. Or you complete the bond. Not just touching marks like you did in the chamber, but a full union. A mating bond. Joining your power with his permanently, becoming what the prophecy always said you'd be. Two wolves, one power. Balanced. Whole. Silence fell over the riverbank. Elena stared at the old woman, her mind reeling. You're saying I have to mate with him? Or die? I'm saying you have to choose, Miriam corrected. Live as a normal wolf without your power, or embrace your destiny and bind yourself to the shadow line. There is no third option. Not anymore. Elena looked at Damon, saw the conflict warring in his expression. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. If you want to renounce the mark, live a normal life, I'll support that. I'll make sure you and Lily are protected. And what about the prophecy? Elena interrupted. What about the threats you said were coming? If I renounce the mark, you'll face them alone. Then I'll face them alone. Damon's voice was fierce. I won't force you into a bond you don't want, Elena. I won't trap you the way your old pack did, the way Thomas did. You deserve a choice. Some choice, Elena said bitterly. Give up the power that makes me who I am, or bind myself to a man I met 3 days ago. I know. Damon's eyes held hers. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry the world didn't give you better options. I'm sorry I can't offer you the time and courtship you deserve. But whatever you decide, I'll stand by it. Elena closed her eyes, feeling the poison spreading, feeling her heart struggling to beat, feeling the weight of impossible decisions pressing down on her. She thought of Lily. Thought of living long enough to watch her daughter grow up. Thought of being there for first days of school and scraped knees and bedtime stories. She thought of the prophecy. Thought of the threats Damon had mentioned, the dangers their kind faced. Thought of whether she had the right to walk away when she might be needed. She thought of her power. Thought of finally understanding what it meant, what it could do. Thought of learning to control it instead of fearing it. And she thought of Damon. Thought of the way he'd fought for her, protected her, asked nothing in return. Thought of the way his mark felt against hers, not invasive, but completing. Like finding a piece of herself she hadn't known was missing. If I do this, she said slowly, opening her eyes to meet his, I need you to understand something. I'm not doing it because I love you. I don't know you well enough for that. I'm not doing it because of some prophecy or destiny. I'm doing it because I'm tired of being broken. I'm tired of being afraid of my own power. I'm tired of running. She took a shaky breath. I'm doing this for me. And for Lily. So I can go back to her whole instead of half dead. So I can protect her properly instead of putting her in danger just by existing. Do you understand? Yes. Damon's voice was steady. And that's enough. More than enough. Elena looked at Miriam. If we do this, will the bond save me? If done properly, yes. Your powers will balance each other. The silver poison will dissipate. You'll become what you were always meant to be. The oracle's eyes were grave. But understand, child. A mating bond isn't something done lightly. It's permanent. Unbreakable. You'll feel his emotions, he'll feel yours. You'll be connected in ways that go deeper than marriage, deeper than blood. Are you prepared for that? Was she? Elena wasn't sure. But she was sure that she wanted to live. Sure that she wanted to see her daughter again. Sure that dying here, on this riverbank, running from her past, that wasn't the ending she wanted. Do it, she said. Whatever ritual or ceremony is required. Do it now, before I lose my nerve. Miriam nodded and began drawing symbols in the mud around them, the same symbols from the prophecy chamber. As she worked, she spoke in a language Elena didn't recognize, words that felt older than time itself. Damon moved closer, kneeling beside Elena so they were facing each other. Last chance, he said quietly. If you want to back out. I don't. Elena reached up, her hand trembling, and cupped his face. I'm choosing this. I'm choosing to live. To fight. To stop running from what I am. She managed a weak smile. Besides, if you're lying about all this, if you turn out to be using me, I'll have enough power to make you regret it. Damon laughed, the sound startled and genuine. Fair enough. Miriam finished her preparations and looked at them both. Join hands. Mark to mark. And when I speak the words, repeat them. The bond will form on its own from there. Elena and Damon pressed their wrists together, silver mark against shadow mark. The moment they touched, power exploded between them, not violent, but overwhelming. Elena gasped as she felt Damon's presence flood into her mind, his emotions, his memories, his very essence. And she knew, with sudden absolute certainty, that he'd been telling the truth. About everything. She could feel it in the bond forming between them, feel his sincerity, his hope, his determination to protect her. Feel the 3 years he'd spent searching, the loneliness of carrying his mark alone, the moment of pure recognition when he'd first seen her in that storm. She could feel him. And it was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. Miriam began to chant, and somehow Elena knew the words to repeat, as if they'd been written on her soul long before she was born. Damon spoke with her, their voices intertwining like their power, like their marks. The symbols around them blazed with combined silver and shadow light. The pain in Elena's chest began to fade, replaced by a warmth that spread through her entire body. She felt the poison retreating, felt her power stabilizing, felt herself becoming whole for the first time in her life. And when Miriam spoke the final word, when the bond snapped fully into place, Elena and Damon both gasped as everything clicked together. 2 wolves. 1 power. Complete. Elena could feel him now. Feel Damon's presence in the back of her mind like a constant, steadying warmth. Could feel his relief, his joy, his fear that she would regret this choice. She met his eyes and knew he could feel her too. Feel her terror and hope and determination all tangled together. Feel the love she carried for her daughter. Feel the wounds Thomas had left. Feel everything she was laid bare. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi," Damon said back, and his smile was everything, wonder and joy and promises yet unmade. Miriam stood, brushing mud from her robes. "It's done. You are bonded now, bound in a way that death itself cannot sever. The silver and shadow are united." She looked at them both gravely. "Use this gift wisely. The prophecy is in motion now. There's no stopping what comes next." "What has come next?" Elena asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. "War," Miriam said simply. "The old enemies are rising. The darkness you were meant to fight is already gathering. And your old pack." Her expression turned grim. "They will not accept this bond. They will see it as the ultimate betrayal, one of their own joining with the Northern Alpha. Expect retaliation." "Let them come," Damon said, his voice carrying an edge Elena had never heard before. The bond let her feel his protective fury, his determination to keep her safe no matter the cost. They had their chance to cherish what they had. They chose fear instead. Now they'll learn what happens when you throw away something precious. Miriam studied them for a long moment, then nodded. "Rest here tonight. My wards will hide you from searchers. But by dawn, you must move. Head north to the Alpha's territory. You'll need the pack's protection for what's coming." "Will they accept her?" Elena asked, voicing the fear that had been growing in her chest. "Your pack, will they accept a bonded mate who was hunted by her own people?" Damon's hand found hers, squeezing gently. Through the bond, she felt his certainty. "They'll have no choice. You're my mate now. That makes you Luna of the Northern Territory. Anyone who challenges that challenges me directly." Miriam made a sound that might have been approval or warning, Elena couldn't tell. "The girl has fire, and you have shadow. Together, you'll either illuminate the path forward or burn everything down trying. I suppose we'll see which." She turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing, Silver Child. Your daughter, she carries the mark too, doesn't she?" Elena's blood ran cold. "How did you?" "I can sense it. Faint, dormant, but present. The bloodline is strong in her." Miriam's eyes softened slightly. "She'll be safe for now. The mark doesn't usually manifest until adolescence. But eventually, she'll need training. She'll need you. Don't wait too long to reclaim her." And then she was gone, disappearing into the forest like smoke, leaving Elena and Damon alone on the riverbank with a bond neither of them fully understood and a future neither could predict. Elena sagged against Damon, exhaustion finally overtaking her now that the immediate danger had passed. "This is insane," she murmured. 24 hours ago, I was dying in a storm. Now I'm mated to an alpha I barely know, part of some ancient prophecy and apparently about to start a war." "Technically, you were already dying when I found you," Damon pointed out, earning a weak laugh from her. "So really, things have improved." Elena tilted her head back to look at him properly. In the moonlight, with their marks still glowing faintly where their wrists touched, he looked less like the intimidating alpha and more like a man who'd just had his entire world turned upside down. "Are you scared?" she asked quietly, letting herself be vulnerable through the bond. "Of what comes next?" "Terrified," Damon admitted. But also, he searched for words, and Elena felt his emotions through the bond: excitement, purpose, rightness. "Also more certain than I've ever been. Like I've been walking around half alive my entire life, and suddenly I can breathe properly." "I feel it too," Elena whispered. "And it scares me how right this feels. How can something that happens so fast feel so inevitable?" "Because it is inevitable." Damon helped her to her feet, steadying her when she swayed. "The moment you were born with that mark, the moment I was born with mine, this was always where we'd end up. The prophecy saw it 3,000 years ago. We're just finally catching up." They made camp a short distance from the river, in a small clearing Miriam's wards had marked as safe. Damon built a fire while Elena sat wrapped in his cloak, feeling her strength slowly returning as their combined power worked to heal her. "Tell me about the Northern Territory," she said, watching him work. "What am I walking into?" Damon was quiet for a moment, arranging wood with careful precision. "It's different from what you're used to. Larger. More structured. We have about 200 wolves in the main pack, with several smaller satellite packs under our protection." 200? Elena's eyes widened. Riverside only had 40. "We're one of the largest packs in the region. Which comes with its own complications." He lit the fire, shadows playing across his face. "My beta, Mason, he's good people. Loyal. He'll accept you because I do. Same with my second, Zane. But the council," Damon's jaw tightened. "The council is going to be a problem. They don't want change," Elena guessed. "They don't want disruption. And you, my dear mate, are the very definition of disruption." He said it with a hint of amusement, but through the bond, Elena felt his genuine concern. "They'll see you as a threat to the stability we've built. They'll question whether the prophecy is real or just ancient superstition. They'll demand proof of your power before they accept you as Luna. Will you let them?" Elena asked. "Demand proof?" Damon met her eyes across the fire. "I don't know. Part of me wants to tell them to accept you on faith, that my word should be enough. But another part," he sighed. "Another part knows that showing them what you can do, what we can do together, might be the only way to truly unite the pack behind us." Elena understood what he was really saying. "You want me to demonstrate my power? Show them I'm not just some refugee you took pity on. I want them to see what I see." Damon moved around the fire to sit beside her. A woman who survived her own pack trying to kill her. Who crossed hostile territory alone to protect her daughter. Who faced down a dozen wolves rather than give up. Who's strong enough to make an impossible choice and brave enough to face the consequences. Through the bond, Elena felt the depth of his admiration, his respect. It made her chest tighten. "You barely know me," she said again, but with less conviction this time. "I know you better than you think." Damon's hand found hers, and Elena let him thread their fingers together. "The bond doesn't lie, Elena. I can feel who you are. Your fear, yes. Your doubt. Your wounds. But also your strength. Your fierce love for your daughter. Your determination to survive. Your hope, buried deep but still there, still burning." He leaned closer. "And you can feel me too. So tell me, am I what you feared? Am I using you? Manipulating you?" Elena closed her eyes, letting herself really examine what she felt through the bond. Damon's emotions were an open book now. His protective instincts, his loneliness before finding her, his determination to prove himself worthy of the bond. His fear of failing her. His hope that maybe, eventually, she might come to care for him as more than just a necessary ally. "No," she admitted. "You're not what I feared. You're complicated. Burdened. Lonely. But honest. And that's more than I've gotten from most people in my life." "Then that's enough for now," Damon said softly. "We don't have to pretend this is a love match. We don't have to force feelings that aren't there yet. We just have to be honest with each other. Trust each other. Stand together against whatever comes." "And if feelings do develop?" Elena asked, surprising herself with the question. Damon's smile was small but genuine. Then we'll deal with that when it happens. No pressure. No expectations. Just possibility. Possibility. Elena turned the word over in her mind. When was the last time her life had held possibility instead of just fear and survival? They sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire, feeling each other's presence through the bond. Elena found herself studying Damon more openly now, the way firelight caught in his dark hair, the strength in his profile, the careful way he moved, always aware of his surroundings. "Can I ask you something?" she said eventually. "Anything. Why haven't you taken a mate before? You're an alpha." "You're what, 28? 29? Most alphas are bonded by your age." 32, Damon corrected. "And I almost did. Once." Her name was Sarah. She was the daughter of a neighboring alpha, and our parents arranged the match when we were teenagers. Elena felt a flicker of something through the bond, old pain, carefully contained. "What happened?" "She died." Damon's voice was flat. "Rogues attacked her pack's territory. She was caught in the crossfire. I was 19. I'm sorry." "Don't be. We weren't in love. We barely knew each other." He poked at the fire with a stick. "But her death made me realize something. I didn't want an arranged match. I didn't want a mate chosen for political convenience. I wanted—" He trailed off. "What?" Elena pressed gently. "Something real." Damon looked at her. "Someone who understood what it meant to carry power you didn't ask for. Someone who knew what it was like to be set apart, to be different. Someone who wouldn't fear me but wouldn't use me either. And you thought you'd find that in an ancient prophecy?" Elena couldn't keep the skepticism from her voice. "I thought if the prophecy was real, if there really was someone out there marked like me, then maybe we'd understand each other." He shrugged. "Maybe I was naive. But when I first saw you in that storm, when I felt your power and saw your mark, Elena, I knew. Not because of destiny or fate or any mystical bullshit. But because I looked at you and saw someone who was fighting the same battle I was. Someone who was trying to figure out how to be strong without being feared. How to protect without dominating. How to lead without losing themselves." Elena's throat tightened. "You saw all that in one glance?" "I saw enough." Damon's eyes held hers. "And everything I've learned since has only confirmed it. You're exactly what I've been searching for. Not a weapon. Not a tool. But an equal." The word landed between them, heavy with meaning. Equal. Not subordinate. Not lesser. Not something to be controlled or contained. Equal. "I'm going to disappoint you," Elena whispered. "I'm going to be difficult and stubborn, and I'm going to question everything. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to be human," Damon interrupted. "You're going to be human. And wolf. And probably infuriating at times. And I'm going to do the same. We're going to fight. We're going to disagree. We're going to drive each other crazy." He smiled. "But we'll do it together. And that's what matters." Elena wanted to argue, to point out all the ways this could go wrong. But exhaustion was pulling at her, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, she felt safe enough to sleep. "I need to rest," she admitted. "The healing is taking everything I have." "Then sleep." Damon shifted, making himself comfortable against a tree trunk and opening his arms in invitation. "I'll keep watch." Elena hesitated only a moment before moving into his embrace. It should have felt strange, being this close to someone who was essentially still a stranger. But the bond made it feel natural, like settling into a place she'd always belonged. She rested her head against his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat, feeling his power intertwining with hers in a constant, soothing dance. "Damon," she murmured, already half asleep. Thank you. For not giving up on me. For fighting for me when my own pack wouldn't." His arms tightened around her. "Always, Elena. That's what mates do. We fight for each other. No matter what." Elena drifted off with those words echoing in her mind, and for the first time in years, her dreams weren't haunted by fear and rejection. They were filled with silver light and shadow, dancing together under an ancient moon. Elena woke to dawn filtering through the trees and the smell of cooking meat. She sat up slowly, Relieved to find the pain in her body had dulled to almost nothing. The silver poisoning was gone, burned away by the bond's power. Damon crouched by the fire, turning what looked like fish on improvised spits. He glanced up when he heard her move, and Elena felt his relief through the bond before he even spoke. "How do you feel?" "Better." Elena stretched carefully, testing her limits. "Stronger. The poison is gone." "I know. I could feel it fade through the night." Damon handed her a piece of cooked fish. "Eat. We have about an hour before we need to move, and you need your strength." They ate in companionable silence, and Elena found herself studying their bond more carefully. It was like having another sense, a constant awareness of Damon's presence, his emotional state, even vague impressions of his thoughts when his guard was down. "Is it always this intense?" she asked. "The bond? Can you feel everything I'm feeling?" "At first, yes. But you'll learn to shield some of it, create mental boundaries. Most bonded mates can tone it down to a background hum unless emotions are strong." He paused. "Why? Is it overwhelming?" "A little," Elena admitted. "It's like having someone constantly in your head. I'm not used to that level of exposure." "I understand." Damon's expression was understanding. "If it helps, I'll work on shielding my end more. Give you some breathing room. Would that hurt your feelings?" Elena asked, then immediately felt foolish. They barely knew each other. Why would he care? But through the bond, she felt his answer before he spoke it. "A little. But I'd rather you be comfortable than force an intimacy you're not ready for." His honesty surprised her. Most alphas she'd known would have demanded full access, full submission. But Damon was offering her control over their bond, over her own mental space. "Let's try to find a middle ground," she suggested. "I'll work on shielding too. We'll both get better at this." Damon's smile was worth the compromise. They broke camp efficiently, Damon teaching Elena how to hide their trail, how to move through the forest without leaving traces. "Riverside will spread the word that you're alive and bonded to me," he explained as they walked. "Other packs will hear. Some will be curious, others hostile. We need to make it to Northern Territory before anyone else finds us." "How far?" 2 days at this pace. 3 if we're careful." He glanced at her. "Can you run?" "Your wolf form." Elena's steps faltered. I haven't shifted since the night I ran. Since the council. I'm not sure I can control her anymore. The power makes everything more intense when I shift." "Then we'll practice." Damon stopped, turning to face her. "We have time before we need to move. Let me see your wolf, Elena. Let me see what you've been hiding." Fear coiled in Elena's chest. What if I can't control her? What if she attacks you or... She won't. Damon's certainty flowed through the bond. "Your wolf recognizes mine now. We're bonded. She'll respond to my presence, help you find balance." Elena wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. She couldn't keep avoiding her wolf form. If she was going to survive what was coming, she needed to master every part of herself. "Okay," she whispered. "But if something goes wrong..." "It won't." Damon stepped back, giving her space. "Trust yourself. Trust your wolf. And trust the bond." Elena closed her eyes, reaching for the shift. It came easier than expected, her body remembering the transformation even after weeks of avoiding it. She felt bones reshaping, for sprouting, her senses sharpening until the world exploded into color and scent and sound. When she opened her eyes again, everything was different. Sharper. More vibrant. And she was looking up at Damon from a wolf's perspective. She expected to see fear in his eyes. Revulsion. The same reaction she'd gotten from her pack when they'd first seen her shifted form. Instead, Damon looked at her with pure awe. "You're beautiful," he breathed. Elena caught sight of her reflection in a nearby stream and understood his reaction. Her wolf was pure silver, not gray or white, but actual metallic silver that seemed to glow with internal light. Her eyes were the same color as her mark, luminous and strange. She was larger than a normal wolf, her build somewhere between a natural wolf and the massive forms most shifters took. She was unnatural. Otherworldly. Exactly what her pack had feared. And Damon thought she was beautiful. Through the bond, she felt his genuine admiration, his wonder. He saw her shifted form not as a threat, but as proof of everything he'd believed about the prophecy. Shift, asterisk, she thought at him, not sure if he'd hear her in this form. But he did. Through the bond, her thoughts came through clearly. Damon smiled and began his own transformation. His wolf was equally impressive, massive and black as midnight, with eyes that glowed gold. Where Elena's form suggested grace and speed, his radiated raw power and strength. They were perfectly complementary, she realized. Light and shadow. Silver and onyx. Damon moved closer, and Elena tensed instinctively. But his wolf just lowered his head, pressing his muzzle against hers in a gesture of affection and recognition. Run with me, asterisk, he thought. Let me show you what you're capable of. And before Elena could overthink it, before fear could stop her, she ran. They moved through the forest like liquid shadow and silver light, weaving between trees, leaping over logs, their paws barely touching the ground. Elena felt her wolf's joy, the pure freedom of running without pain, without the constant burn of poison in her veins. She felt powerful. She felt whole. Damon ran beside her, matching her pace perfectly, and, through the bond, she felt his own exhilaration. This was what he'd been searching for, not just her, but this. The completion of having his mate beside him, running as equals, their powers in perfect harmony. They ran until Elena's lungs burned, until her legs trembled, until she couldn't remember why she'd been so afraid of her own wolf form. When they finally stopped, collapsing together in a sun-dappled clearing, Elena shifted back to human form without thinking. Damon followed suit, both of them breathing hard, covered in dirt and leaves and grinning like idiots. That was incredible, Elena gasped. I haven't felt like that since before everything went wrong. That's what you've been missing. Damon sat up, pushing his hair back. The joy of it. The freedom. Your power isn't meant to be a burden, Elena. It's meant to be celebrated. Elena rolled onto her back, staring up at the canopy above. My pack used to have runs like that. Before my mark appeared. Before they started fearing me. We'd run on full moons, the whole pack together, and it felt like flying. You'll have that again, Damon promised. The northern pack runs every full moon. And you'll run with us. As Luna. As my mate. As yourself. The title hit Elena harder than she expected. Luna. Leader. Equal to an alpha. It was everything she'd thought she'd lost when Riverside cast her out. What if your pack doesn't accept me? She asked quietly. What if they? Then we'll deal with it. Damon moved to sit beside her. But Elena, most of them will follow my lead. And once they see what you can do, once they understand you're not a threat but an asset, they'll come around. You sound very confident. I am. He reached down, offering his hand. Because I've seen packs torn apart by weak leadership. I've seen what happens when alphas choose fear over courage, when they reject instead of protect. I won't let that happen to mine. And neither will you. Elena took his hand, letting him pull her up. You give me too much credit. No, Damon's eyes were intense. I give you exactly the credit you deserve. You just need to start believing you've earned it. They made their way back to camp, and as they walked, Elena found herself asking about his life, his pack, the world she was about to enter. Damon answered every question with patience, painting a picture of the Northern Territory that was both intimidating and intriguing. Mason, my beta, has been with me since we were kids, he explained. His mate, Isla, is one of the fiercest warriors I know. They have a daughter, Ruby, she's 6. Absolutely fearless. She's going to love you. How can you be sure? Because she's been asking for months when I'm going to find a mate. Damon's smile was fond. She's decided I'm too serious and need someone to make me laugh more. Elena felt something warm bloom in her chest. And your second? Zane. Zane is complicated. Brilliant strategist. Loyal to a fault. But he's been hurt before. His first mate died in childbirth, along with their son. He's been closed off ever since. Damon's expression grew somber. He'll be wary of you at first. Not because of who you are, but because he doesn't let anyone get close anymore. I understand that, Elena said softly. I've been closed off too. For different reasons, but I get it. They reached camp and began packing up. As Elena rolled up the makeshift bedding, she found herself thinking about what lay ahead. A new pack. A new role. A daughter she desperately needed to reunite with. When can I see Lily? The question burst out before she could stop it. Damon paused in his preparations. Soon. Once we're settled in the Northern Territory and the immediate danger has passed, we'll bring her there. I promise. What if she doesn't recognize me? What if? She'll recognize you. Damon moved to her side. Elena, you've only been gone a few weeks. She's 4 years old, and you're her mother. She'll know you. Through the bond, Elena felt his certainty, his commitment to reuniting her with her daughter. It helped ease some of her fear. They traveled through the day, moving steadily north, avoiding main trails and settlements. Damon taught her how to use the bond to communicate silently, how to sense danger through his heightened awareness, how to coordinate their movements without speaking. It was strange, learning to work with someone so intimately. But it was also surprisingly natural. The bond guided them, helping them anticipate each other's needs and reactions. As evening approached, they found shelter in an abandoned hunting cabin. It was small but intact, with a fireplace and enough protection from the elements. We'll stay here tonight, Damon said, checking the structure carefully. Tomorrow we'll cross into Northern Territory. Once we're there, we'll have pack protection. While Damon built a fire, Elena explored the cabin. It was sparse, just one room with a loft above. She found old blankets in a trunk, musty but usable. Not exactly luxury accommodations, Damon said, following her gaze. It's better than a cave, Elena pointed out. And it has walls. I'll take it. They prepared another simple meal, and as darkness fell, Elena found herself growing anxious about the next day. Meeting his pack. Proving herself worthy of being Luna. Facing whatever resistance the council would surely present. You're spiraling, Damon said softly from across the fire. Elena blinked. What? I can feel it through the bond. Your anxiety is building, spiraling into worst-case scenarios. He set down his food. Talk to me. What are you really afraid of? Elena wanted to deflect, to say she was fine. But the bond made lying impossible. He'd feel it. I'm afraid of failing you, she admitted. You've put your faith in me, in this bond, in the prophecy. What if I'm not what everyone expects? What if I can't be the Luna your pack needs? Damon was quiet for a long moment. Then he moved around the fire to sit beside her. Can I tell you something? He asked. Something I've never told anyone? Elena nodded. I'm terrified too. His confession surprised her. I've been alpha since I was 24 when my father died. 8 years of leading, of making decisions that affect hundreds of lives. And every single day I wonder if I'm doing it right. If I'm strong enough, wise enough, good enough. He met her eyes. Being a leader means living with constant doubt, Elena. It means making choices when there's no clear right answer. It means standing firm even when you're shaking inside. But you know what I've learned? What? That the best leaders are the ones who question themselves. The ones who care enough to worry about failing. Because it means they're trying. They're fighting to be better, to do better. He took her hand. You're already showing those qualities. You've survived things that would have broken most people. You've protected your daughter at great personal cost. You've faced down your own pack rather than submit to fear. That doesn't mean I know how to be Luna. No, Damon agreed. But it means you have the strength to learn. And that's what matters. Elena leaned against him, letting herself draw comfort from his presence, from the steady warmth of the bond between them. Tell me something good, she said. Something to look forward to. Something that isn't about prophecies or danger or proving myself. Damon was quiet, thinking. Then, there's a meadow on the northern edge of our territory. In spring, it fills with wildflowers, thousands of them, every color you can imagine. The pack has a tradition of gathering there on the summer solstice. We celebrate with a feast, stories, games for the children. His voice softened with memory. Lily would love it. There's a stream that runs through it, perfect for wading. And the wolf pups always play in the flowers, getting pollen all over their fur. Elena could picture it, her daughter laughing, running through fields of flowers, safe and protected. It was a beautiful image. A hope worth fighting for. "Will you take me there?" she asked. "When this is all over. When Lily is with us." "Yes." Damon's arm came around her shoulders. "I promise. We'll go as a family." The word family hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility. They sat like that for a long time, watching the fire burn down, neither wanting to break the spell of peace that had settled over them. Eventually, exhaustion won. They made pallets from the old blankets, and Elena found herself hesitating about where to sleep. "Close to Damon? Separately?" "We're bonded, Elena," Damon said gently, reading her uncertainty. "Sleeping beside each other doesn't have to mean anything more than mutual comfort and safety. Unless you'd prefer to sleep separately." "No," Elena said quickly, surprising herself. I sleep better when you're close. I can feel the bond, and it helps." They settled together on the blankets, and Elena rested her head on Damon's chest, listening to his heartbeat. His arm came around her automatically, protective and warm. "Damon," she whispered into the darkness. I'm glad it was you. In the storm. I'm glad you were the one who found me." She felt his emotions surge through the bond, gratitude, wonder, fierce protectiveness. "So am I," he whispered back. "So am I." Elena drifted off feeling safer than she had in years, wrapped in the arms of a man who saw her power and wasn't afraid. Who saw her brokenness and didn't turn away. Who saw her. And tomorrow, she'd face his pack. She'd step into her role as Luna. She'd fight for her right to exist and to protect the family she was building. But tonight, she was just Elena. Just a woman learning to trust again. And that was enough. They crossed into Northern Territory just after dawn, and Elena immediately felt the difference. The forest here was denser, older, the trees so massive they blocked most of the sunlight. Territorial markers were everywhere, scent posts, claw marks on trees, patrol routes visible to her enhanced senses. This was Damon's domain. And it was vast. "We'll reach the main compound by midday," Damon said, his tone shifting to something more formal. Alpha voice, Elena realized. He was preparing to be the leader his pack expected. "I've sent word ahead through the bond with Mason. The pack will be gathered to meet you. All of them." Elena's stomach clenched. "The core group. About 70 wolves. The rest are scattered in satellite territories." He glanced at her. "Are you ready?" Was she? Elena touched her mark, feeling its steady pulse, feeling Damon's presence anchoring her through the bond. "As ready as I'll ever be." They emerged from the forest into a clearing that took Elena's breath away. The Northern Territory's main compound wasn't what she'd expected. Instead of rough cabins and makeshift structures like Riverside, this was a proper village. Solid buildings arranged around a central gathering space, with a massive long hall at the center. Gardens, training grounds, even what looked like a school for young wolves. This wasn't just a pack. This was a community. And every single member had stopped what they were doing to stare at her. Elena felt the weight of dozens of eyes, felt the curiosity and suspicion rolling off the assembled wolves. Her instinct was to hide, to make herself small and unthreatening. But she was Luna now, so she lifted her chin and met their gazes head-on. A large man with sandy hair approached, his smile genuine despite the wariness in his eyes. "Welcome home, Alpha." His gaze shifted to Elena. "And you must be the one we've heard so much about." "Elena, this is Mason." Damon's hand found the small of her back, steadying and protective. "My beta." "Heard a lot about you too," Elena said, offering her hand. "Thank you for allowing me into your territory." Mason's smile widened as he shook her hand. "It's not just our territory anymore. It's yours too." He glanced at their join marks, visible on both their wrists. "Word travels fast. The whole pack knows about the bond." "And what do they think?" Elena asked, deciding honesty was better than pretense. Mason's expression turned diplomatic. "They think many things. But what matters is that our Alpha has chosen you. That means something here." Translation: the pack was divided. Elena had expected nothing less. Another wolf approached. A woman with fierce eyes and warrior scars. Isla, she introduced herself. Mason's mate. And head of our warrior unit. Elena, she replied, recognizing the assessment in the woman's gaze. This was someone who'd sized up threats for a living. I appreciate you welcoming me. I haven't decided if I'm welcoming you yet, Isla said bluntly, ignoring Mason's warning look. But I respect honesty, so here's mine. The pack is concerned. You're an unknown quantity with a dangerous power, and you've brought the attention of a hostile pack to our doorstep. That makes some of us nervous. Isla, Damon started, but Elena put a hand on his arm. No, she's right. And I appreciate the honesty. Elena met Isla's eyes directly. I am dangerous. My power is unstable. And yes, I've brought complications to your home. But I'm also Damon's mate, and I intend to earn my place here. Whatever it takes. Something shifted in Isla's expression. Respect, maybe. Fair enough. Let's see if you're as tough as you talk. A third wolf joined them, this one lean and dark-haired with eyes that held old pain. Zane, Elena guessed, even before Damon made introductions. So you're the prophesied one, Zane said, his tone neutral. The silver wolf who's supposed to restore our former glory. I'm Elena, she corrected gently. Whatever prophecy says about me, that's separate from who I actually am. Zane's eyebrow raised slightly. Most people in your position would lean into the mystique. Use the prophecy to claim authority. I don't need mystique, Elena said. I need to prove myself through actions. The prophecy is just words until I make it real. For the first time, Zane smiled, small, but genuine. Maybe you'll survive here after all. Enough, Damon said, though his tone was more amused than angry. She just crossed half the territory on foot while recovering from silver poisoning. She needs rest, food, and a chance to acclimate before you all interrogate her. The council wants to meet her tonight, Mason said, his expression apologetic. They've been waiting since your message arrived this morning. Damon's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Tonight then. Elena, come. I'll show you to our quarters. Our quarters. The phrase sent a jolt through Elena. She was about to see where she'd be living. With Damon. As his mate. He led her through the compound, and Elena felt the eyes following them, heard the whispers starting. But she kept her head high, her expression calm, even as her heart raced. Damon's home was at the far end of the compound, a two-story structure built from dark wood, larger than the others. It exuded quiet authority without being ostentatious. It's not much, Damon said as he opened the door, but it's comfortable. Not much was a massive understatement. The interior was spacious and warm, with high ceilings, comfortable furniture, and large windows that let in natural light. There were bookshelves, a fireplace, a kitchen that actually looked functional. And upstairs, Elena could see a loft area that clearly held the bedroom. One bedroom. Damon caught her tension through the bond. I can sleep on the couch, he offered immediately. Or we can set up a second room. Whatever makes you comfortable. No, Elena forced herself to breathe. We're bonded. We should probably get used to sharing space. I need time to adjust. Take all the time you need. Damon showed her around, pointing out where things were, giving her space to explore on her own. There's a bath through that door. Fresh clothes in the wardrobe, I had some brought in that should fit you. And a small voice interrupted him. Daddy. A little girl burst through the front door, all energy and wild curls, and launched herself at Damon. He caught her with practiced ease, inging her up into his arms with a laugh. Ruby, he said warmly. I thought I told you to wait until this evening. But you've been gone forever and Mommy said you brought someone special and I wanted to meet her. The little girl's words tumbled out in a rush before her eyes landed on Elena. Are you the Silver Wolf? Daddy said he was looking for you. Are you magic? Can you show me? Do you have powers? Are you gonna stay? Elena found herself smiling despite her nerves. The child's enthusiasm was infectious, and something about her reminded Elena painfully of Lily. Ruby, breathe, Damon said, though his tone was affectionate. Let Elena answer one question before you ask 10 more. Sorry. Ruby didn't look sorry at all. But are you magic? I have abilities, Elena said carefully, kneeling to be at the girl's eye level. My name is Elena. And yes, I'm going to stay. I'm your alpha's mate now. Ruby's eyes went wide. So you're gonna be Luna? That means you're like, super important. And you'll live here with Daddy? Are you nice? Daddy needs someone nice. He works too much and forgets to smile sometimes. Ruby. A woman's voice called from outside, and Isla appeared in the doorway, slightly out of breath. I'm sorry, Damon. She slipped away before I could stop her. It's fine. Damon set the girl down. Ruby, this is Elena. Elena, this tiny whirlwind is Mason and Isla's daughter. I can show you everything. Ruby grabbed Elena's hand without hesitation. I can show you the best trees for climbing, and where the stream is, and where we train, and… Later, Isla interrupted firmly, taking her daughter's hand. Elena needs to rest, and you need to finish your lessons. Come on. But Mom. Now, Ruby. The little girl deflated but obediently followed her mother toward the door. At the threshold, she turned back. I'm glad you're here. Daddy's been sad for a really long time. Maybe you can make him happy again. And then she was gone, leaving Elena and Damon alone in suddenly heavy silence. Sorry about that, Damon said. Ruby has no filter and unlimited energy. Deadly combination. She's wonderful, Elena said honestly. And she reminds me of… She trailed off, throat tightening. Lily. Damon finished softly. I know. I felt it through the bond. He moved closer. We'll bring her here soon. I promise. Once the council accepts you, once things settle. I know. Elena wiped at her eyes, frustrated with her own emotion. I just miss her. I miss being her mother instead of this warrior, Luna, prophesied savior. I just want to be someone's mom again. Damon pulled her into his arms, and Elena let herself lean into him. You're still her mother, he said quietly. Nothing changes that. This place, this role, it's just adding to who you are, not replacing it. They stood like that for a moment, and Elena drew strength from his certainty, from the bond that anchored her. I should prepare for the council meeting, she finally said, pulling back. What should I expect? Damon's expression grew serious. 12 council members. All elders with decades of experience. They'll question everything, your background, your power, your worthiness to be Luna. Some will be hostile. Others just skeptical. Very few will be immediately welcoming. Wonderful. Elena. He waited until she met his eyes. Don't let them make you feel less than what you are. They'll try. They'll push, test your limits, try to make you doubt yourself. But remember, you survived your own pack trying to kill you. You crossed hostile territory alone. You faced down an oracle and made an impossible choice. You're stronger than they can possibly understand. Elena wished she felt as confident as Damon sounded. But she nodded. I'll do my best. That's all I ask. The council chamber was located in the long hall's basement, a deliberate choice, Elena suspected, to make visitors feel the weight of being underground, contained, judged from all sides. The space was circular, with 12 chairs arranged in a semicircle facing 2 seats in the center. Elena wore simple but clean clothes, dark pants, a fitted shirt, her hair pulled back. She debated covering her mark but decided against it. Let them see what she was. No hiding. Damon led her in, his hand at her back, and Elena felt the weight of 12 pairs of eyes assessing her immediately. Council, Damon greeted them formally. I present Elena Ashwood, bearer of the silver mark, my bonded mate, and your new Luna. A murmur rippled through the council. An elderly woman with steel-gray hair spoke first. We heard rumors, Alpha. But seeing the mark, her eyes fixed on Elena's wrist. It's truly real. The prophecy. It's real, Damon confirmed. As is our bond. Elena is my mate in every sense of the word. I expect her to be treated with the respect that position demands. Respect must be earned, a male council member said, his tone sharp. Title alone doesn't grant it. Especially when that title comes with complications. What complications? Elena asked, deciding to engage directly rather than let them talk around her. The man, gray-bearded and stern, leaned forward. You bring war to our doorstep, girl. Your former pack has declared you a rogue and enemy of all wolfkind. They're calling for other packs to refuse you sanctuary, to turn you over for execution. That puts every member of this pack at risk. I'm aware, Elena said calmly, though her heart raced. And I'm sorry for that danger. But I didn't ask to be hunted. I didn't ask for my pack to fear me. I only asked to exist. Your existence threatens the natural order, another council member said, a woman with hard eyes. The prophecy speaks of power returning to our kind. But power unchecked is dangerous. What's to stop you from becoming the very thing our ancestors fought against? What's to stop you from losing your humanity to the beast within? The same thing that stops any of you, Elena shot back. Choice. I choose every day to hold on to who I am. To remember why I fight, what I'm fighting for. Pretty words, the gray-bearded man said. But we need proof. Demonstrate your power. Show us you can control it. No, Damon's voice was flat, final. Elena is not a circus animal to perform on command. She's already proven herself by surviving things that would kill most wolves. She's proven herself by bonding with me, by balancing the shadow line with her silver. That should be enough. It's not enough, the steel-haired woman said, though her tone was gentler. Damon, we understand your position. But the pack is frightened. There are rumors that Elena's power poisoned her, that it's unstable, that it could erupt at any moment and harm innocents. Surely you see we need reassurance. Damon looked ready to argue, but Elena put a hand on his arm. Through the bond, she sent her decision before speaking it aloud. It's okay, she said quietly. They have a right to be concerned. I would be too, in their position. She stood, addressing the council directly. You want to see my power? Fine. But understand. What you're asking me to reveal is the very thing my former pack tried to kill me for. The thing I've spent years learning to suppress, to hide, to fear. You're asking me to make myself vulnerable in front of people who haven't decided yet if they see me as Luna or as threat. The chamber fell silent. But I'll do it, Elena continued. Because I understand fear. I've lived with it. And the only way past fear is through honesty. She held out her hands, palms up, and reached for her power. It came easier now, flowing through her instead of fighting her. The silver light began to glow, spreading across her palms, up her arms, illuminating the chamber with soft radiance. The council members leaned back instinctively, and Elena felt their fear like a physical thing. This is what I am, she said quietly. This is the power the moon goddess gave me. It's fire and light and healing all at once. Yes, it can destroy. But it can also protect. It can also create. She focused, shaping the light, and conjured an image in the air between them, a silver wolf running beneath a full moon, beautiful and free. The prophecy says I'm meant to restore what was lost. But I think what was really lost wasn't power. It was balance. Hope. The belief that we can be strong without being cruel. That we can lead without dominating. That we can protect without destroying. The silver wolf dissolved, and Elena let her power fade back to just her mark. I'm not asking you to love me. I'm not even asking you to like me. I'm asking you to give me a chance. Let me prove that I can be the Luna this pack deserves. Let me show you that the prophecy isn't about fear, it's about possibility. She sat down, suddenly exhausted, and felt Damon's pride and love surge through the bond so strongly it nearly overwhelmed her. The council members looked at each other, having silent conversations with glances and subtle gestures. Finally, the steel-haired woman spoke. That was impressive. Both the power and the speech. She studied Elena carefully. But I have one more question, and I need an honest answer. Your daughter, Lily, is it? You left her behind when you ran. What kind of mother abandons her child? The question hit like a physical blow. Elena felt Damon tense beside her, felt his anger at the accusation through the bond. But she forced herself to answer calmly. A mother who loves her daughter more than she loves herself. A mother who knew that staying would put her child in danger. A mother who chose her daughter's safety over her own heart. Her voice cracked. You think it was easy? Leaving her? Every day I don't see her face is agony. Every night I wonder if she's scared, if she thinks I abandoned her, if she'll even recognize me when we're finally reunited. But I made the choice I had to make. I drew the pack's attention away from her. I kept them from discovering she might carry the mark too. The chamber went deathly quiet. She carries the mark? The gray-bearded man asked sharply. Your daughter has the silver line? It's dormant, Elena said quickly. It may never manifest. But I couldn't risk them finding out, couldn't risk them deciding to eliminate her as a precaution. So I ran. I made myself the target. And I've hated myself for it every day since. The steel-haired woman's expression had softened. When do you plan to retrieve her? As soon as it's safe, Elena said. As soon as I know she won't be walking into a war zone or a pack that might see her as a threat. And if her mark does manifest, another council member asked. What then? Then I teach her what I'm learning, Elena said firmly. I show her that power isn't something to fear or suppress. I help her become everything she's meant to be, not what others fear she might become. The council members exchanged more glances. Finally, the steel-haired woman nodded. I've heard enough. Alpha, if we might have the room to deliberate. Damon stood, helping Elena up. Of course. We'll be outside. They stepped into the corridor, and Elena sagged against the wall, her legs suddenly weak. Damon was beside her instantly, his arms around her, his concern flooding through the bond. You did beautifully, he murmured. You were honest, strong, vulnerable when you needed to be. They'd have to be blind not to see your worth. They asked about Lily. Elena's voice broke. They made me relive leaving her. Made me defend the worst choice I've ever had to make. I know. And I'm sorry. If I could have stopped that question. You couldn't. And they had a right to ask. Elena looked up at him. But God, it hurt. Admitting out loud that I left my daughter. That I don't know when I'll see her again. Soon, Damon promised. Whatever the council decides, we'll bring her here soon. I swear it. They waited for what felt like hours, but was probably only 30 minutes. Finally, the doors opened, and the steel-haired woman beckoned them back inside. Elena's heart pounded as they took their seats again. She tried to read the council members' faces, but couldn't decipher anything. We've deliberated, the woman said formally. And we've reached a decision. Elena Ashwood, bearer of the silver mark, bonded mate of our Alpha, we accept you as Luna of the Northern Pack. Relief crashed over Elena so hard she almost couldn't breathe. However, the woman continued, and Elena's relief turned to dread. We do so conditionally. You will have a probationary period of 3 months. During that time, you will train with our warriors, learn our ways, prove your control over your power. You will be watched, assessed, judged. And at the end of 3 months, we will reconvene to determine if you've earned the right to keep the title permanently. And if I fail? Elena asked. Then the bond remains, but you will not serve as Luna. You will be Damon's mate and nothing more. The pack will not follow you, will not look to you for leadership. The woman's gaze was stern but not unkind. Is this acceptable? Elena looked at Damon. Through the bond, she felt his frustration with the conditions, his desire to fight for her unconditional acceptance. But she also felt his understanding that this was the best they could hope for right now. It's acceptable, Elena said. Thank you for giving me a chance. Don't thank us yet, the gray-bearded man said. You'll be training with Isla starting tomorrow. She's not known for going easy on new recruits, especially ones who need to prove themselves. I wouldn't want her to, Elena said honestly. I need to be pushed. I need to become stronger. The council dismissed them, and as they walked back to Damon's house, their house, Elena felt the weight of what had just happened settling over her. She'd been accepted. Conditionally, yes, but accepted. She had 3 months to prove herself. 3 months to become the Luna they needed. 3 months before they'd judge whether she was worthy. You're already worthy, Damon said, reading her thoughts through the bond. You know that, right? I know you think so, Elena said. But I need to believe it myself. They entered the house and Elena collapsed onto the couch, utterly exhausted. Damon sat beside her and they stayed like that for a long moment, processing everything. When can we get Lily? Elena finally asked. I'll send Mason and Zane tomorrow, Damon said. They'll bring her and Margaret here safely. 3 days, maybe 4. Then you'll have your daughter back. Tears slipped down Elena's cheeks. Thank you. For everything. For fighting for me, for believing in me, for… Elena. Damon turned her face toward his gently. You don't have to thank me for treating you the way you deserve to be treated. That's just what mates do. And looking into his eyes, feeling the depth of his commitment through their bond, Elena felt something shift inside her. She was starting to trust him. Really trust him. And that terrified and thrilled her all at once. Come on, Damon said, standing and offering his hand. You need rest. Tomorrow the real work begins. Elena took his hand and let him lead her upstairs. When they reached the bedroom, large, comfortable, with a massive bed that could easily fit 2, Elena hesitated. I can still take the couch, Damon offered. No, Elena made her decision. We're bonded. We should act like it. Just, maybe keep to your side of the bed for now. Damon's smile was gentle. Whatever you need. They settled into bed, and despite her exhaustion, Elena found herself hyper-aware of Damon beside her. His warmth, his steady breathing, his presence in the bond. Damon, she whispered into the darkness. Yes, I'm glad it's you. I know I said that before, but I mean it. I'm glad I'm not facing this alone anymore. Through the bond, she felt his emotions, joy, relief, fierce protectiveness, and something deeper. Something that felt dangerously like love. You're never going to be alone again, he promised. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Elena closed her eyes, letting that promise settle into her bones. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Training, skeptical pack members, the constant pressure to prove herself. But tonight, she was safe. She was accepted, even if conditionally. She was bonded to someone who believed in her. And in 3 days, she'd have her daughter back. For the first time in longer than she could remember, Elena fell asleep with hope in her heart instead of fear. And she dreamed of silver light and shadow dancing together beneath an ancient moon, 2 halves finally made whole. To be continued in the next part. If you're feeling the connection to Elena's journey, if her struggle to prove herself despite her fear resonates with something deep inside you, then subscribe to Shayla's Romance Library. Because this story is just beginning. Elena still has to face her greatest test, claim her full power, and decide whether the bond with Damon is obligation or something more. Turn on notifications, because you won't want to miss what happens when the darkness the prophecy warned about finally arrives. Join us. Asterisk.